Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation expanded the Milner Ridge Correctional Centre by the addition of 64 beds. To do this, they installed 8 prefabricated modules. The modules were built by Eagle Companies at their manufacturing plant near Peoria, Illinois. Four modules contain 16 beds each. One module is an exercise facility, one is a men's and women's locker room, one is the control pod, and the remaining module connects the 4 dorm modules. From their manufacturing plant near Peoria, it took approximately 4 days to transport the modules to the Milner Ridge site. The modules were transported in 2 sections on drop-deck trailers. Prior to shipping, the modules were inspected by MIT and architectural, mechanical, and electrical consultants to ensure the standard of quality. They were shrink-wrapped and loaded onto trailers for shipping. The modules were installed on cast-in-place concrete footings, piers, and walls. A 200-ton hydraulic crane and rigging was needed to be set up the day before the modules arrived. The site was prepped to allow for truck access, unloading, and egress. The module sections were brought in where the crane could easily access them. Tie-down chains and shrink wrapping were removed. They were inspected for any damage occasioned during transportation. The 4 lower lifting lugs were bolted into the floor framing structure of the module section. Swivel lifting eye bolts were threaded into lifting blocks installed at 4 locations at the top of the inner columns, which correspond to the lower lifting lugs. This allowed the second section of the module to be lowered in tight to the first without having the rigging getting in the way. Once all lifting points were installed, the 8 slings were then connected to the lifting points using 1-inch shackles. The module section was lifted up and checked for level and balance, then lowered back onto the trailer where adjustments to the bottom of the slings were made at the pick points. The slings were made with 2 feet of chain and link hooks at the end to make this adjustment. 2 tag lines were attached to each end of the module section and then lifted off the truck and moved into position. There are receiver pins on the previous module, which the wedges on the latter module section slide and lock into, drawing the units tight together. Once set into position, the rigging was disconnected and the next module section prepped and hoisted in the same manner. After the module sections are installed, they are bolted together at the 4 upper pick point locations with 2 bolts at each location. Modules were then secured to the foundations using anchor bolts and steel plates. The centers are welded to steel plates embedded in the top of the piers. A qualified roofing installer was hired to install the ridge cap and to tie the EPDM roofing membrane between the 2 module sections. The material was shipped with the module sections. Mechanical and electrical systems were then connected to the modules. Where the modules connect to each other, interior finishes needed to be tied in. For example, joint closure strips and wall board around the connections and caulking at the exterior joints. Exterior finishing consisted of landscaping near and around the modules and installation of secured perimeter fencing. This was the first truly modular medium security correctional facility ever built by MIT for the Department of Justice. It differed greatly from other modular construction the government routinely undertakes for education, health, and housing in its advanced security requirements as well as its extremely sophisticated control systems. Like all projects, this one had its unique challenges. The construction was performed during harsh winter conditions, a supplier that was manufacturing for a jurisdiction that had significantly different standards, a remote and highly secure construction site. Average time to install one module section is 2 hours.